So we'll take some questions from the media before we conclude this afternoon. So first of all, James Cook from BBC.
Thanks very much indeed, First Minister. The polls suggest that people are, to a certain extent at least, fed up with your party. The SNP has slumped pretty dramatically in the polls recently. Aren't voters sending a message that they are not just discontented, as you contend, with the UK government, but with the Scottish government you lead as well?
I would be the first to admit, James, that the SNP's had a pretty rough time over the last year or so. I'd be the first to accept that. And I'm here because we're recovering from that and we're building ourselves back up. And that's what I intend to do. I came back into frontline politics a few weeks ago, and I promised my party that if they supported me, I would bring our party together, and I've done that. I'm very happy with the state of the SNP today. The SNP's a united, cohesive team. And united, cohesive teams win elections. And that's what we're going to go out there and do. And yes, have we got a lot of ground to recover? Yes, we have, James. Well, it's just we've had a rough time, James. You've covered this for the last year. You don't need me. You don't need me to play back the reports that you've actually broadcast. I think you've been an eyewitness, to be honest. So I'm just here to get us back on the road again and get us moving. And I'm very optimistic and confident that we can do that because we've made such progress in the course of the last couple of weeks. Now, Louise Scott. Louise, there.
You talk about particular challenges the party is facing. One of those has to be finances. How much money do you have, does the SNP have to put towards this general election campaign? And we're already seeing candidates without crowdfunders. How can people be confident that the money they are giving to the SNP is going to general election campaigns, given the ongoing investment?
Well, the money that's raised by the SNP goes to fighting campaigns, and that's what we're about, and we're raising lots of money to do that. Our campaigns are well funded at local and national level. Now, you'll appreciate I'm not exactly going to set out the inner details of the SNP's election campaign and its financing today, but let's just be confident the SNP will be able to fight a well-resourced election campaign, which will enable me to take our message around the country and to make sure that at local level all our campaigns can get their message across. Sadia Chowdhury. Yes, Sadia.
Mr. Swinney, what message do you send to voters today launching this campaign on the same day that you backed a colleague who fiddled expenses during a cost of living crisis?
I set this all out to Parliament just a little while ago, that the point I was making to Parliament is that Parliament, I think, is in danger of falling into disrepute by the way this issue is being handled, because one of the members of the committee that's looked at Michael Matheson's conduct has expressed opinions that I think prejudice the case. Now, as I explained to some of the journalists as I left the parliamentary chamber today, if a journalist was facing a situation where they were appearing at a disciplinary panel and one of the members of the panel had expressed an opinion and prejudged that case, that journalist would be mightily aggrieved about the unfairness of what they faced, and the NUJ would have something to say about it too. Same thing applies in Parliament. Now, I accept that Michael Matheson has made mistakes. I accept that there's a process that has to be gone through. I just want to make sure it's fair, and it's fair for everybody. Right, Rebecca McCurdy. That's the party's policy, but I think the most important issue for us is to actually make the case for independence. And for me, the case for independence is made by the fact that if you look at the three big things that are really causing disruption in life in Scotland today, austerity, Brexit, the cost of living crisis, every one of them originates from Westminster. And independence gives us the opportunity to make our own choices, to rejoin the European Union, to invest in our public services, to grow the economy so that we can support people in a cost of living crisis. All of that has been inflicted on Scotland by Westminster, and the answer to it is independence. So what I'll be doing in the election campaign is relating independence to the everyday lives of people in Scotland, and I think that's a really powerful message for people to hear. Right, Eva Santina. Not here. Okay, Rebecca Brady. Rebecca.
First Minister, core opinion polls this week have put Scottish Labour ahead of the SNP in are you defending Michael Matheson because you don't want a by-election that you could potentially lose?
Well, I've set out what I'm doing about Michael Matheson because I think it's the fair thing to do in terms of a due process in the Parliament. In relation to opinion polls, yeah, of course, we've got challenges in the opinion polls. I accepted that in my answer to James Cook. There's other details in opinion polls, and they relate to the choices that people often make in elections. People often make choices in elections because of their confidence in the people who are setting out their arguments, in the political leadership of political parties. I'm the most popular political leader in Scotland. That's a huge advantage for the SNP. We're going to use it. We're going to work hard in every constituency around the country to make sure that I'm visible, leading the campaign from the front as the most popular leader in Scotland, dwarfing the people who question me in Parliament on a weekly basis. And I'll be making sure that the public see enough of me and hear enough of me. I'm also very, very lucky because I've got a team of colleagues who work with me. Kate Forbes, the Deputy First Minister, Keith Brown, the Deputy Leader of the Party, Stephen Flynn, the Westminster Leader, so many of our talented individuals, and they'll be out there promoting the SNP message, and we're a strong, unified team, and that'll be very attractive to the public.
Are you not undermining your own integrity by defending a man who has been found guilty by the Standards Committee?
I'm simply saying to Parliament, Parliament's got to make sure it does things the proper way. That's what I'm saying to Parliament. Right, Alan Smith.
Mr. Swinney, just briefly on the Michael Matheson point, is there a level of sanction you think would be acceptable from Mr. Matheson? And given that you think that the process has been prejudiced, should there be an independent investigation now into what happened with Mr. Matheson?
Well, I simply set out to Parliament, I did this privately weeks ago, the risks that I thought Parliament was taking by proceeding in the way that it's done. And that correspondence that I sent to the Standards Committee has now been made available in the Parliament's Information Centre. So that's all there. And what we're going to do is to make sure that there is... I just want Parliament to do things in a proper and effective fashion. And that's what we'll take forward.
Just on the election, you were speaking to independent supporters, those who are persuaded by independents to vote with the SNP. Is there a concern that there will be people who have heard these promises time and time again that will be thinking about going elsewhere with the vote against independents, looking at the Scottish Greens who are standing for referendum candidates, 32 candidates, that might cost you votes in key seats?
Well, we've just got to get our message across, Alan, and we're very enthusiastic about doing so. Right, Chris McCall.
First Minister, can I ask, what is more important to you, protecting the career of Michael Matheson or the SNP winning seats at this election?
Yeah, I've answered the Michael Matheson issues, and I want the SNP to win as many seats as we can in this election, Chris.
You don't worry that Michael Matheson will end up costing you votes?
Well, look, I've got a choice. I either turn a blind eye to a process which, if it was happening to you, Chris, you would object to. You would object to it big style. And I could just turn a blind eye to that and say, okay, let's just ignore all of that. That's not John Swinney. That's not what you get. And I'm not going to make any apology for it. Laura Webster. Now, I'm being told we're getting short of time because I've probably answered too many questions, but I'm going to take a couple more. Justin Bowie. Sorry, was Laura Webster here? Oh, Laura, you're over there, right? Sorry.
Okay, thanks, First Minister. As things stand, a majority of seats will start negotiations with the UK government for independence. What preparation is underway now for those negotiations?
Well, obviously the government's set out the Building a New Scotland series of papers. It sets out many of the arguments that have got to be taken forward and addressed, and we'll build on the foundations of that case as we build the strength of our position in the aftermath of a successful election campaign. Justin Bowie.
Can I ask, you were the SNP leader in the 2001 Westminster election, of course. That was a fairly disappointing Westminster election for the SNP. What went wrong back then when you were leader, and what have you learned since then that might make it better this time?
Well, I think I've kind of changed over the course of the last 24 years. I've maybe become slightly more assertive over the years. Maybe that's the case. But look, a lot of water's gone under the bridge, and I now find myself as the most popular politician in Scotland. That's not a bad starting point. Alistair Grant.
First Minister, you talked about listening to people. A recent poll in Scotland
I'm not saying anything about that. I'm saying to Parliament, my warning to Parliament is about Parliament's reputation and its business. And it's, in my view, it's on course to damage its reputation by presiding over an unfair process. That's my point, and that's what needs to be addressed.
On the public
But,
record, he should resign.
look, Alistair, I obviously look at a lot of opinion polls. The point I'm making is that Parliament's got to get its house in order. That's what I'm saying. Right, Andrew Learmonth. Oh, wait.
You talk about Parliament damaging its reputation, but is the SNP not damaging its reputation by standing by Michael Matheson here? The SPCP vote was pretty damning. Should he not at least help the whip removed?
Well, look, I just think Parliament should preside over a fair process. That's all I've raised. I've not questioned the corporate body report. I've just said Parliament should preside over a fair process, and I've not had a credible answer to the point that I've made so far. John Boothman.
There's only 6 weeks to go until the general election, John, and it's a long way. If the Parliament decides next week, and it might be next week, that Michael Matheson should resign, should he resign?
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Lewis Mackenzie.
You've spoken a lot about the public use of described Michael Matheson as a man of integrity. Would you also describe Michael Matheson as a man of integrity?
Michael's a good man who made mistakes. He's apologised for them and he's paid back all the costs of what was involved. He's sacrificed his cabinet position. He lost his cabinet position because of all of this. And there's obviously a process to be undertaken. But what I want, Lewis, is I want people to be treated fairly, because I would want that done to me. And I don't think it's been done in this particular case. Well, I've said what I've said, Lewis, about this process, and I think it's for Parliament to address the issues that I've formally done to Parliament earlier on today. Louise Wilson. Louise.
On independence, you've previously accepted that you need to get the public to move with the SNP. You've now only got 6 weeks to do that. Are you concerned that that's not enough time?
Well, I'm going to get out there, and there's still about half the population in Scotland believe in independence. That's not really changed. So my challenge is to get those people to vote SNP. That's my challenge. And then to get more people to get that support well over 50% comfortably. And that's what I'm going to engage in the election campaign. Now, the final one is David Walker from The Express. David.
And so this is the first day of the SNP election campaign, and you've already been embroiled with a scandal surrounding Michael Matheson. How do you think it's right your first day, and do you think that Michael Matheson will have an impact on your voters, and has it been a chaotic start to your campaign?
Not in the slightest. I think it's been a great day, actually. I've been up at the crack of dawn. I've had my usual run through the streets of Edinburgh. I'm fit as a fiddle. I've done loads of broadcast interviews. I've handled First Minister's questions. I've put some pretty tough questions that Parliament's got to address. And I'm here with all my friends and all my journalistic friends answering questions, and it's got off to a great start. So, David, thanks for doing that.